You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. I thought LSU's win over Mississippi State was massive. I don't want to overstate it because I don't think, as an LSU fan, someone who loves or follows the program, you should be doing cartwheels and backflips over a win over an unranked Mississippi State team. But a few weeks ago, when LSU lost to Florida State, I told you, you got to keep in mind who you are, not who you were, who you are. You know who you were, 2019 national champ, you're three-time national champ since 2003, all that stuff is part of what will help rebuild, but who you are right now is a program coming off back-to-back losing seasons, new head coach, new staff, new support staff. Your roster had atrophied. You turned it over. You're talking about transfers from East Tennessee State and FIU and McNeese and ULL. That's who you are. UTSA. That's who you are. That's who you are. And you're building back to what you want to be again. Mississippi State, meanwhile, is in year 3 of Mike Leach. He's had the same defensive coordinator in Zach Arnett, who's very good at what he does. Will Rogers, at this point in his career, is by a mile the best quarterback option that Mike Leach has had during his time in Starkville. And still, LSU beat Mississippi State by 2 touchdowns. When you are at your lowest, when you are trying to ascend and State is at a stable place and you still beat Mississippi State by 2 touchdowns, when you are a home underdog in this game for the first time in 20 years, 22 years to be exact, that is a balance of power game. I explained this before, I'll say it again. When you're LSU and you're in the SEC West and every year you have to play Alabama and Auburn and Texas A&M and Florida, there aren't many gimmies on the schedule. To say it another way, if you're Ohio State, when you get your schedule and you see Rutgers on the schedule, you've got to be able to take out a Sharpie and scribble a W next to that game. Because you know you got Penn State and Michigan and Wisconsin, potentially a lot of big games ahead. When you're in the Big 12 and you're Oklahoma and you get the schedule, you need to be able to take your Sharpie and scribble a W next to Kansas. Now, Kansas is actually playing pretty good right now, but you understand the point. There have got to be certain things that are a certainty. And when you're LSU, beating Mississippi State has to be as close to a certainty as possible. LSU's worst team ever won 2 games under Curly Hallman in 1992, beat Mississippi State. Like, you've always got to beat Mississippi State. So even when LSU is down and State is stable, you still beat them by 2 touchdowns. That's why Saturday was significant. Not because 100 years from now they're going to remember an LSU win over an unranked Mississippi State team. They might, because it's Brian Kelly's first SEC win, but that's why it was significant. A couple of things about the game in particular. Of course, LSU gets down 13-0 in the ball game. What a finish. A 21-point fourth quarter. Your defense allowed just 3 points in the second half. Mississippi State had fewer than 100 yards of offense in the second half. Incredible performance all the way around by LSU to go get that win the way they did. Are there things they need to fix? Absolutely. And that's going to be a process throughout this season of ironing out some of the issues with special teams, of continuing to get more comfortable with Jayden Daniels as your quarterback and he with his receivers, of finding your rotations on the defensive side of the ball. But LSU was massively effective in this ball game, and that was great to see. When you put up 416 yards to 289, when you throw it for 210, run it for 206, when you're balanced that way, you win by 2 scores. When one of your defensive backs wins SEC Defensive Player of the Week, which Jay Ward did, and that was such a huge talking point all week because Jay Ward moved to the nickel, Greg Brooks moved to the safety. That came up aces. When you look at playing Micah Baskerville more. He finished second on the team with 8 tackles behind Jay Ward's 11. The decisions that Matt House made defensively came up aces for LSU against Mississippi State. And so many times that defense had to hang on and come up with big plays. And they did it over and again. The first drive of the game for Mississippi State, whenever they went for it on the 4th and 1 and converted, that was the only 4th down that they successfully converted in the game. I can look at so many spots. Mississippi State on its second possession, up 6-0, gets the ball at the LSU 49-yard line. You force a 3 and out. They go forward on 4th and 1. Major Burns, Mekhi Wingo come up with a huge stop on 4th and 1 to get the ball back when State was in plus territory. I mean, we could go again. When State, deep in its own territory, decided to go forward on 4th and 1. Again, Wingo, this time Jones, came up with the big stop at the Mississippi State 29-yard line. LSU gets the ball, quickly fumbles, sudden change, and that sucks that you were in a spot where it looked like you might be able to tie the game right there. You have a sudden change. Your defense is right back on the field, and they came up with a stop. 3rd and 10 was Savion Jones this time with the sack fumble. Every time it seemed like your defense needed to make a play, they made a play. Even when, and I'll tell you the huge sequence, when LSU in the third quarter went for it on a 4th and 4 and didn't get it. This is when they rolled Jayden Daniels to the left and he threw deep to Kayshawn and he didn't get it. LSU came up with a 3 and out. State went for it on 4th down again, and you got the big pass breakup. It was a huge sequence. When you asked your defense time and again, go make a play, they made the play, which was awesome. It was such a growing process. We got to see Harold Perkins play a ton on 3rd down, even played on the inside in this game. We saw him play that jack position in Ojulari's spot last week. They moved him inside this week, and he was so good and so effective, which was awesome to watch the freshman take that big step like he did this week with 5 tackles, 1.5 sacks. He was just awesome, and you can see all of the promise and potential of number 40 running out there on the defensive side of the ball. So much to like defensively in this game for LSU. Offensively, we did talk about it. I told you I thought Jayden Daniels would be the leading rusher again, and he was, and this is something that we're going to have to get used to seeing because your offensive line isn't good enough to move bodies to establish a consistent ground game. Now, they did, late in the ball game, grind a little bit on State. Pickering went out, and that's when you saw Monty Goodwin bust the 47-yarder, which was the capper. But Jayden Daniels, when you absolutely had to put a drive together, Daniels was at his best. End of the first half, State scores to go up 13-0. Remember, LSU took the ball to start the game. They won the toss and elected to receive, which I hated, but they took the ball. They didn't convert, or they didn't get points on that opening drive. Couple of false start penalties set them behind the sticks. State scores late in the second quarter, and they're getting the ball to start the second half. So you've got to get points some way, or you run the risk of being down 3 scores in this ball game. What happens? Williams, an 8-yard reception. 2nd down, Daniels runs for 13 yards. Williams, a short gain, then Daniels runs for 15 yards. Daniels finds Neighbors over the middle. LSU calls timeout. 2nd down, Daniels runs for 20 yards, and then Daniels calls his own number and gets in the end zone on the touchdown run. When you had to have it, Jayden Daniels took over. In the first half was marred by every drive being affected by a self-inflicted wound. 2 procedure penalties on the first drive. A sack on the second drive. You tried to go for it on 4th and 1. Charles Turner false started. On your third drive, a sack, which set you behind the sticks. The fumble on the next drive. The next drive, you went 3 and out. And then another sack ended the next drive before you finally put together your scoring drive, where Daniels just had to go take over, and he did, which was awesome to see. So, and then we saw how they kind of piled on in the second half. I know that a lot of the conversation around LSU offensively is going to be you got to get the receivers more involved. Daniels is choosing to run too much. And I understand completely that point of view. It's something on Monday, Brian Kelly, I actually asked Brian Kelly that question. And part of his answer was we need him to be aggressive because he makes dynamic plays with his feet. But there's times where he's got to be able to make plays with his arms as well, and I think that's going to develop. Brian Kelly said that. I believe that will happen as there's more time and more comfort and continuity here. But in the meantime, there is an undeniable reality with this team that Jayden Daniels doing what he's doing right now is your best path to victory. if you had Joe Burrow or Peyton Manning or somebody like that on the sideline ready to give you more in the passing game, you could consider it, but you don't. What you have is a young player who's careless with the football. The guy leading you right now is a veteran guy who started more than 30 career games, who is protecting the football, making plays when he has to, both with his feet and with his arm, and LSU got a win. And now tell me you don't feel more confident today about going to Jordan-Hare in 2 weeks. After watching Auburn get pasted at home by Penn State with a veteran quarterback and a good coach, tell me you don't feel good about that recipe going to Jordan-Hare a week from Saturday. What a different conversation we're having today than we were 2 weeks ago, when a lot of y'all were saying LSU was going to win 3 games all year. You know who you are. It's okay. You don't have to stand up today with your hand in the air. It's fine. But enjoy days like Saturday where you can see the progress manifest right in front of you, where you can see the climb happening right in front of you. Y'all, there's going to be games where they slip, undoubtedly. There's going to be days when we're here on a Monday, frustrated, scratching our head, wondering what went wrong. But there's going to be days like Saturday, and you got to enjoy those. Because when you get to the top of the mountain, you appreciate it so much more when you had to go through the climb. And that's what LSU is doing right now. And Saturday was a big step with the way they beat Mississippi State in Tiger Stadium. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.